Hey guys, I'm Adam, operator of the Cichlid Show. I have been doing this now for almost 2 years and I've picked up a bunch of tribal knowledge on how to tune and optimize your internet stream, especially when making use of OBS Studio. These videos really apply to all the different streaming software types. I've used XSplit Broadcaster quite a bit, but all the way down here at the very bottom, all by its lonesome, is OBS. I'm in my opinion, and I've used a lot of these other guys. In my opinion, OBS is just the best. It's free, and it just gets the job done. So that's what we're going to be working with today. So guys, this is what YouTube has to say. It's important to make sure your live stream is high quality. Make sure you choose a quality that will result in a reliable stream based on your internet connection. That does not help. There are many, many variables that go into that. And then if you come down here a little bit, so 720p at 30 frames per second is what I export from the Cichlid Show stream. It's the best I can do with my current hardware. So their range, their suggestion here is that we should export at a bit rate of anywhere between 1.5 meg and 4 megabits per second. There's a huge window. So how do you know where you should set yours? The low end, the high end, somewhere in the middle. So these videos are going to take us through this entire series is going to take us through how we pick the right number. So let's say that we're going to pick the biggest number that they suggest, which is 4,000 kilobits per second, or about 4 megabits per second. So let's plug our 4,000 kilobits per second into OBS. And that will tell OBS to start sending at a rate of about 4,000 kilobits per second and to sustain that rate continuously. Down here on the bottom right, this is the traffic going from OBS, from my streaming software out to YouTube. That's what this line represents. You can see it going up. That's because I just increased the bit rate to 4,000. So the line's going to climb up to 4,000 and it's going to stay here. Now, this is the important part. This is really the most important part of this whole video, probably. Notice that the top line up here, just kind of watch it for a minute, it's not going to change. So despite the fact that we increased our bit rate all the way up to the highest YouTube recommended, which is 4,000, it didn't change the this chart. So let me explain what this chart's showing. This is the real-time display in OBS, and this is a browser. This chart right here, I'm using this Silver Peak Edge Connect system. In real life, I'm a systems engineer for Silver Peak, so I use Silver Peak tools all over the place to solve problems like this. But in this case, what it's doing is it's showing us the actual bits per second rate of traffic coming, into the browser. So the viewer's bits per second rate. In other words, it's the traffic rate that's being sent to the viewer from YouTube. Now the important thing is that even though I'm sending it 4,000, YouTube's only sending the viewer, right at maybe 1,800 kilobits per second. That's pretty neat. They're transcoding it. Whatever they're taking whatever you send them, and they're removing as much as they can without impacting quality. And it's very effective. What you send them, they will remove everything that's unneeded and only send what's left. That's important because what it means is that we have basically a budget of 4,000, or 4 megabits per second. We're only using 1.5 megabits per second. So that's good so far, but now what's going to happen is, so we'll move the camera to a view that has a lot more shimmer, more movement. Now, if you notice on the bottom left, this Silver Peak stuff over here, this might be kind of hard for you to get a hold of to do the same kind of tuning, but you can kind of finagle it with Performance Monitor. So on the device that you're streaming on, um, open Performance Monitor, open a browser on that device as well, and then you can chart the interface inbound and outbound uh, bits per second rate, or bytes per second. You see this guy went up, and so did this one. So this is 1 second resolution, and this is 6 second. You see that the green line is kind of hard to read at 1 second resolution, but at 6 second, down here, it's very smooth. It's much easier to understand. Now here's the part, the tuning part, the reason why all this matters. I think that you typically want the green line to be as low as possible without letting the red line hit it. In other words, we want to drop this down. We want to lower our stream bits per second rate as far as we can without impacting quality, or without allowing this line to hit, our committed rate. So let's go to settings here. Well, first let me demonstrate this. So I'm just going to switch the stream to standby mode. And this is really going to illustrate an important point in kind of how, what's going on here, like how YouTube is working. All right, we got to give it a second and kind of let the charts play out so we can see what's going on. The stream is sending essentially nothing right now. However, because when we come in here, go to output, this number, this video bit rate, when you're in simple mode, this is CBR. So that means committed for 4,000 or 4 megabits per second all the time continuously. So that reflects itself here in that we're sending 4 megabits per second to YouTube Live. That's also shown here as well. And this is what you can do without the Silver Peak. Performance Monitor shows a very flat 4 megabits per second. And so it also, you'll notice that the YouTube is hardly sending anything back to us. So even though I'm sending 4 megabits per second to YouTube of just nothing, essentially, they're only sending 300K or so to the viewer. All right, so it's all flattened out. So now let's change it. Let's change it back to, we'll put it in auto rotation mode. So this will cause the stream will just rotate through each of the different cameras. All right, so this bottom view, so the top view is about 9 seconds behind the bottom view. And we can tell that for sure by going, just right click in the video and go to stats for nerds. It's an appropriate name for this feature because you have to be nerdy, kind of nerdy like me, or you have to be maybe hardcore, I don't know. But anyway, this gives you information about how far off live latency we are. So this view is right now, like right when I'm talking, and that's 8 seconds behind. So whatever happens down here is going to happen up here 8 seconds later. That's pretty close. That's about as close as you can get it, actually. Maybe 8 seconds, 9 seconds is really good. And that's with it set to minimize latency as opposed to optimized for smooth streaming. Okay. So it's running through its different camera views, and we can see up here as it goes through different cameras, this is going to change because we're always sending 4 meg to YouTube, but depending on what's being shown on the screen, YouTube might or might not be able to optimize it or compress it further, or encode it in their own mechanism. So what we are seeing though, as it goes through all the different cameras, some cameras have more shimmer than others. The shimmer is what causes it. So like in a video game, spell effects, or turning your screen, like in a first-person shooter, when you turn your screen rapidly, you know, a lot happens on the screen at one time. So what I'm doing here is obviously not a game, but it's the same kind of thing. There's a lot of stuff happening on the screen at one time, many different changes, and the ripples that create sort of nature. You know, it creates enough of a random kind of effect that it really stresses the encoder and forces a huge number of updates, you know, to be sent in the video stream, which causes the amount of traffic that YouTube needs to send back to the viewer to go up. Now, what we are noticing is that we're not using anywhere near 4 meg. So this budget we have here, 4 meg, this is too high. So let's, and we don't need to send any more than we need to, is the thing. Because I have unlimited internet outbound on 2 different providers. So it's okay for me, I can kind of set it to whatever rate I want. However, most people do not have that, and a lot of providers will charge you money if you go over like 200 gig or something. So you might want to set this as low as you can get it. So let's see how to do that. So we see here that we're not even hitting 3 meg. This is 6-second average. Each point is 6 seconds. So over a 6-second period, we're not bursting. You know, our average bits per second rate is not over 3. So let's set it to 3200. So this is something that happens. It might just be an artifact of the fact that I have so many cameras plugged into OBS in my deployment. But I get this stutter that this occurs from time to time. So there, you know, you can either, sometimes it means that you have your bit rate set either too high or too low. Now we had it at 4,000 before. We changed it to 3,200. The quality's still good, but we're getting this stutter effect. So let's easiest thing to do. Let's go back to 3,500. All right. So what you have to do if all else fails, just restart the stream. So what we're going to do here is just hit stop stream. And just hit start stream. All right. So that actually seems to have fixed it. So again, I don't know if that stuttering is an artifact of the way I have OBS being. What I'm doing to OBS is actually quite brutal. It's receiving a ridiculous amount of USB and just all kinds of camera inputs. So yeah, I guess the takeaway there is if you're experiencing weirdness, just stop the stream and just restart it. Okay, so now let's try lowering our 3,200 is where we wanted to be. See if we can go to 3,200 without stuttering. Whoa, we crashed OBS. Look at that. Messing with it too much. All right, so when this happens, best thing to do is just go ahead and close it. Wait, stop replay buffer also. I've had it running for like a day and a half, so we'll give it a pass. All right, so we're back. So let's before OBS crashed, what had we done? 3200. Okay. So it looks good right now. Actually, hold on, this camera. Okay, let's put it in auto rotate mode, and what we're gonna see here once more is now we are at 3200 kilobits per second, and this is what we're getting from YouTube. So we really don't want to see this number go above what we're our committed rate. That's pretty close. Yeah, now that I'm looking at it too, this is actually not really working, because I know I'm at 3 meg, but this is not. I'm not really sure how to honestly how you would do this if you didn't have like a silver peak. You need a traffic monitor that will show you like maybe 5 or 6 second intervals, but for specific. I don't know. Maybe somebody, somebody in the comments can link something that would work. But these silver peaks are just really handy for this. You can pick any flow you want and create a variety of different charts. Let's do one more test. Let's just kick it into standby mode. We're gonna see this drop way off, but this is gonna stay right where it is. In fact, this will flatten out. Yeah, and so now YouTube is only sending a couple hundred bits per second, but we're getting, we're still sending sustained 3.2 megabits per second to YouTube. Let's do this one. Now, what I'm going to do, what really tests it is when there's a lot of motion on the screen. So I'm going to go throw some food right in the corner, right where we're looking at. So I'm going to feed them right in that corner. And while I'm doing that, I want you guys to watch what it does to the charts. We should see this, the dark blue up here should really max out. We'll see. Stand by. All right, so here we go. There are a lot of fish in this tank. All right, so now we gotta watch the stream quality and watch our bits per second rate, because there's a lot going on. So let's see how it looks. Well, and the result is it looks pretty good. So I have an iPad Pro set up next to me, and I look down at it, and its image is really good. So it shows you what it's going to look like in full screen, and it looks really good. A little pixelation, but not much. Now notice the dark blue line is really getting after it. So this is right where I fed them, and it was all that movement, and now it's falling off as the fish settle down. But all the while down here, you know, continuous 3.2. So it really spiked way above that for a while. I think it had a buffer. That's what this is right here. So I could probably come up just a little bit more. Let's go to 3,400. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So we're sending at a rate of about 3.2 megabits per second, and the busiest view that we have. So maybe this is, you know, in the middle of a team fight, or, you know, whatever it is you're doing, big raid, tons and tons of particle effects, tons and tons of movement. Any sort of worst case, that's what you want to plan for when you're, you know, thinking about how you set up your encoder and your bits per second. So this is kind of worst case for me right now, and, you know, of all the cameras that are available. Now I might do a couple more videos about how there's a lot more to it than what I'm showing you. This is just the, you know, how I go about tuning the bits per second rate for the stream itself. There's the resolutions that you use and the automation that I use to switch the cameras, and the effect that like scrolling text has on frame rate itself, exposure time, all kinds of like detailed technical stuff that I could do videos on, you know, and talk about. There aren't too many people, I don't think, trying to do what I'm doing with OBS, but there probably are some takeaways that, you know, a traditional streamer could take from some of this stuff. So I'm gonna let it run for a while and just let it auto scroll through the cameras and watch the bandwidth and kind of see how it goes. Remember that we're wanting to make sure that this line, the traffic coming into the viewer, stays under the committed rate that I'm sending to YouTube while maintaining quality. All right, the wave makers are turned off. So now we're going to get a whole lot less shimmer. The water's essentially still, at least on the surface. So now that we have less shimmer, you'll notice that the bits per second rate over here, the inbound rate to the viewer, is going to go way down, because there's just not that much to send. YouTube is cutting out all the redundant stuff and only sending the stuff that is changing. And so since there's not much shimmer, there's not a lot of movement on the rocks and on the fish, there's just not as much changing. I like the shimmer sometimes, and sometimes I like the still. You know, I can't leave it like this, unfortunately, but there's so many fish in the tank that If I don't provide a lot of surface agitation, the CO2 builds up, and it will eventually kill the fish. So I have to keep the water moving, but I can turn it off for short periods from time to time. Which you'll notice over here that the bits per second is really low. We could if we wanted to, we could reduce our rate here. In fact, let's do that. We could crank it all the way down to like 2500 probably. Let's try that out. No, we're getting stutter. See the stutter? See the fish kind of jump. It's hard to spot, but it drives me crazy. All right, so now the question is that an OBS problem or is it? Let's go back to 3200 where we just were and see if the stutter goes back away. Nope, it did not go away. All right, so we got to do a stop, restart. We got to. See, it only takes a second. What's happening is every time I hit stop streaming, it tears down the RTMP socket to YouTube, and it starts a brand new session. So this chart over here is, you can see it's showing a specific socket. And so whenever, as soon as I hit stop, this flow ends and I have to go get a new one. Okay, we can try it one more time. What do we want to go to? 25. All right, well, for some reason it worked that time. So we changed it. We set it to 2500. It's definitely dropped. It's not all, yeah, I'm sorry, it's at 2500. That's right. And we're getting no stutter. My quality is still really good. And you can see here, this is here's our budget. And this is what we're using. We're way under. Now, as soon as the pumps come back on, so I set it for 10 minutes. So after 10 minutes, they're going to come back on and the shimmer will restart. And at that point, the rate that I have set here will probably be too low. So in my year and a half of doing this, I've kind of come to the conclusion that the best rate for me all around is almost always around 3200. So I think we're good as far as tuning and kind of getting our bit rate established. We've kind of gone through the full process. I know this video probably ended up being really long by the time I go back and cut it. I'm going to put fast forwards and stuff all through it and try to make it a little more digestible. But key takeaway is understand how much traffic the client is receiving, the viewer, because that has a lot to do with how fast you need to be sending. So you want to set your video stream rate to a rate that's at least higher than YouTube will ever need to send to the viewer. So guys, hit me up on the stream, hit me in live chat if you have questions or comments or better ways to do this, like maybe some thoughts on if you don't have a Silver Peak system, how would you plot the flow bits per second rates? I don't really know how to do it, honestly. I mean, maybe NTOP, or you can't even use NetFlow because you need super low, maybe SFlow. I'm not sure. If you guys have any ideas, hit me up, let me know. Otherwise, hope this has been helpful. And oh yeah, one last takeaway. If you don't feel like going through all this mess, if you're streaming at 720, you want to go with about 3,000, about 3 megabits per second. If you're streaming 1080p, you need to go with at least 5500, probably 6K, and see if your machine can handle it. And you can come down from there, but that's in terms of bit rates for YouTube Live. That's about where you need to be. If you've got really exciting stuff happening on the screen, League of Legends actually, for instance, there's not a lot going on. It streams very nicely, but shooters, Overwatch or anything like that is going to be a lot of motion. So you need a high bit rate. All right. So good luck, guys. Talk to you later.